hydrate. If you haven't done metal cleanse, let's do some chemical-free cleanse. Right on our tongue. Get our detox pathways going. A little hydrogen water or spring water if you have it. Celtic salt or Baja Gold sea salt. If you haven't done that, half a teaspoon mixed up in the water. Get the basic minerals into the body. Remember, none of those things will break a fast. None of that water, none of that sea salt and minerals, none of the metal and chemical-free cleanse or perfect aminos will break a fast. And they do not change the pH of the stomach, which is what kind of makes you queasy when you take multivitamins on an empty stomach. We've all made that mistake where you actually took a multivitamin on an empty stomach. So yesterday, I promised you a few things. One, I realized I promised you to show you the stretch that makes you a quarter of an inch taller. I showed it to the VIP group. I'm going to show it to everybody this morning. This is an amazing way to actually prepare for your breath work. It takes 60 seconds. And what it does is this stretch will realign what's called the kyphosis and the lordosis in the spine, the kyphotic and lordotic curves. It makes you actually fill with synovial fluid, stand up straighter, and it corrects your posture because so many of us, whether we realize it or not, we're hunched over. We're hunched over when we drive. We're hunched over when we sit. We're hunched over when we're surrounded by our phone or our iPads. We're hunched over when we're sitting at our desk on our computer. And we spend so much time in this position that not only are we kind of collapsing our auxiliary muscles of respiration, but we're kind of destroying our posture. And over time, this leads to low-grade back pain. It leads to anterior head carriage, where your head starts to move forward on your shoulders. It's a very interesting exercise that talks about minor distances from the spine and how much it increases the load. And if you actually take a bowling ball and hold it against your chest, and then you move it 3 inches out from your chest, the weight of the ball doubles. So this is the same thing that happens with our posture. Because when our head begins to translate forward, we're carrying our head forward on our chest. And this is not good for us long term. So if we can take 60 seconds and kind of realign that posture, even before we do breath work or after we do breath work, you're going a long way to just correcting your posture for the day and fighting all of that shoulder roll and that anterior head carriage. So you don't have to deal with back pain in the future. So you guys want to start off with that? All right, let's do it. This is how it works. I know my my video team gets so mad at me when I start jumping around. All right, I hope you guys can see me. Let's just stand up, stand comfortably, kind of shake our hands out a little bit. All you're going to do is pigeon toe your feet in. I want you to kind of point your toes towards each other. See how I'm taking what's called the carrying angle out of my hips. Right? I'm actually making my hips neutral. Like this, I can't get the spine extension that I want. So I just point my toes in like this. This is actually called the Ogascu method. If you've been to any Tony Robbins events, like his Unleash the Power Within, or any of the big events that Tony Robbins holds, there is an Ogascu method that they teach there. This is not mine, so I just want to give credit to the right people. But you've probably done this at one of his events, and it's amazing, and it takes 60 seconds. We pigeon toe our toes in like this, and then we hold our hands at our sides. We bring them up like this with our thumbs pointed forward, move our shoulders back, and then rotate your thumbs backwards. This should hurt. If you're not feeling a stretch, move your arms backward until you feel a very slight amount of pain. You should feel a stretch all the way down your forearm, and we do 40 circles backwards, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You should feel your shoulders burning, and you should feel that stretch in the front of your shoulders and maybe even some tension in your forearms. That's a good sign. We're correcting our posture. So that's the first part. The second part, I want you to take your fingers, interlace them together, press them together nice and hard like this. So we're going to interlace our hands together like this. press them down like this. This also should hurt, should cause some tension. We're gonna bring our hand all the way up over our head. Press your palm to the sky. Press your palm to the sky. Stare at your middle knuckle for 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and bring it down really slowly. Bring it down really slow. That's it. 60 seconds. That's it. Straighten your feet back out. Shake off. We'll sit down and we'll get rolling with some breath work. So all you're going to do, pigeon toe in, arms to the sides, right? Pigeon toe in, arms to the sides, thumbs back, 40 circles. When you're done the 40 circles, hands together, press down over your head, palms to the sky, staring at your middle knuckle, and count backwards from 10. Bring it down slow, and you're ready to roll. You actually are a quarter of an inch taller. And I always get the question, can I keep doing that? You know, I'm like 5'9", I want to be 6'1". No, it only works once. You get a quarter of an inch taller one time. That's what you get out of the day. By the way, some people will grow over an inch at night when they sleep, right? When that synovial fluid comes back into our joints and our ligaments relax, we actually stretch out. We spend the rest of the day kind of hunching our body over. And remember, what happens is the body's very efficient. When we take a bad postural position over a prolonged period of time, the body starts to adapt our anatomy to that bad posture. So you can fight this every morning just by doing that stretch. It should still feel a little tension in your shoulders. All right, so we're going to get rolling on breath work this morning, and then I'm going to start taking some questions. So by now you should be pretty astute at understanding how we're going to go through the breath work. Remember, we don't do it while we're standing. We don't do it while we're driving. We definitely don't do it in the shower. We want to make sure that we're sitting or lying down or we're on a couch or we're somewhere comfortable. Please, if you're driving, just watch. Don't participate in the breath work. You can get lightheaded. So today, I want to try to push ourselves a little bit. I want to try to do 3 rounds of 10 breaths. We've been doing 5, 10, and 15 breaths. I want to actually take a step up and do 3 rounds of 10 breaths this morning. If you get too lightheaded, just drop out. Remember that it's okay to get a little lightheaded. It is okay if you feel tingling and numbness in your toes, in your feet, and your hands. It's okay if you feel the temperature feel like it's changing in your neck. These are all great signs that you are changing the oxygen tension in the tissues. All right, so let's do our first round of 10 breaths. You guys ready? Here we go. Remember, obnoxiously deep. Here we go. Press your tongue to the roof of your mouth. And I want you to get outside of your head. Right now, I want you to be outside of your head. I want you to find that car on the causeway. I want to find the birds in that tree. If there's a motorcycle going by on the road, if there's a siren in the background, if there's a plane overhead, I want you to just tune into that. Fight that urge to breathe. Tongue to the roof of your mouth, 10 seconds. Get ready for a deep breath in. Ready? Tongue to the roof of your mouth. Get outside of your head. 10 seconds. And let it out. I already feel better. I mean, after I do that first round, I usually do 30 breaths, but after I do that first round, I always have this sensation of, man, I am so glad that I did that. I feel that sense of calm and awakeness at the same time. They call that Zen, just being clear and clean, cognizant, focused. Hopefully you hydrated before we started. You took some Himalayan sea salt, took some Celtic sea salt or Baja Gold sea salt. You actually nutrified your body. If you have the chemical-free cleanse, you took that. You can take the perfect aminos after your breath work or before the breath work. It doesn't matter. Just make sure if you're exercising in the mornings, especially in a fasted state, that you're giving your body the proteins that it needs to repair our muscles. So we're going to go right into round 2. And then I'm not going to talk between round 2 and round 3 because I want to really simulate what breathwork's going to really be like for you after we're done this challenge. So we're going to do the next 10 breaths. We're going to exhale and hold, inhale and hold, and then we're going to go right into the next 10 breaths. So we're going to do consecutive 20 breaths now. You guys ready? Here we go. Tongue to the roof of your mouth. Get outside of your head. It's very common to have ringing in your ears right now. Very normal. That oxygen's getting to every corner of our body. Right now we're building carbon dioxide. We're building that beautiful gas on purpose. It's dilating our blood vessels. Body's waiting for the oxygen. We're going to take a deep breath in. Ready? We're going to hold. Tongue to the roof of our mouth. We're outside of our head. We're into our outside environment. We're not paying attention to the fact that we want to breathe. We're paying attention to our outside environment. And let it out. All right, we're going to go right into our next round of 10 breaths. Here we go. Tongue to the roof of your mouth. Get outside of our head. Get into our outside environment. Embrace that feeling of being a little lightheaded, tingling in our fingers, ringing in our ears. Fight the urge to breathe. Get ready for a deep breath in. Here we go. Tongue to the roof of our mouth. We're outside of our head. Fighting the urge to breathe. And let it out. Woo! Give me a thumbs up in the screen if you actually feel better just from that round, 3 rounds of 10 breaths. It's absolutely amazing. I love my man out there in the sun, sitting on the ground and doing breath work. I call that biostacking. I love it when you can do grounding, sunlight, and breath work. If you're fortunate enough to be in a place where you can do that, absolutely do that. 2 of my favorite things are when I get to do breath work on the beach, or I actually get to do the breath work in the park next to me right here, or even breath work at my place in the Colorado mountains. When I was going through the Wim Hof training course, which is it took me about 10 weeks to get through that and another month and a half to finish some of the advanced courses before I was supposed to go to the Pyrenees Mountains with Wim. One of the things that really intensive breath work allows you to do is actually breathe in a way that's pain modulatory, that literally modulates pain. And next month when we talk about the cold plunge and cold shower challenge, I'm going to teach you a technique called box breathing, which is what our special forces use to bring our heart rate down and calm catecholamines, which are fight or flight neurotransmitters in the brain. And they do this before competition. They do this before exercises, before raids, before things that actually create very high levels of stress and tension. As you know, I work with a number of UFC fighters. Can't tell them by name, but maybe 6 of the top 10 UFC fighters in the world. And it doesn't matter how many times they get in that octagon, they still have the jitters and the nerves, before any time that they're fighting in front of a big crowd like that. I do this box breathing and catecholamine breathing with them backstage right before they walk out. And every time they tell me it's just a game changer. I shared something yesterday on the VIP team that I want to share with the rest of you guys too. If you or someone that you know or love is suffering from anxiety, they deal with anxiety, they have a type of anxiety where they can't really point to the specific trigger that causes it, kind of anxiety that they've had on and off throughout their entire lifetime, one that doesn't really respond to medication because medication makes them feel like a zombie. There's an interesting study I think it's out of Stanford University. If you follow Andrew Huberman, one of my personal mentors, amazing. He talks about this type of catecholamine breathing. Remember that anxiety is a rise in a class of neurotransmitters in our body called catecholamines. And there are a lot of emotional and spiritual gurus that will talk about a shift in your state. Like, how do I go from being in a state of agitation, a state of anxiety, a state of worry, a state of being upset, a state of feeling overwhelmed, to a state of calm? Like, how do I just mentally shift that state? Well, one of the greatest ways to do it is with breath work. And they studied all different types of breath work, and there's a very simple nasal technique with an exhale that you can use to literally almost vacuum these catecholamines right out of the brain. It's amazing the power of the human body if we understand how to tap into it. And a shift of your state, a state shift, if you learn to shift your state, it's one of the most powerful things that we can harness as human beings, learning to control our emotional state. A really, really interesting study out of MIT. If you want to Google it, just Google MIT and emotional memory. And there's a study out of MIT, and they actually isolated an area in the brain. They proved that there's an area in our brain called the amygdala. It's about the size of 2 almonds. And the amygdala is where we feel all of our emotional. So if you're happy in the amygdala. If you're sad in the amygdala. If you're aroused, if you're passionate, if you're elated, if you're joyful, if you're jealous, that emotional state is coming from this area of the brain called the amygdala. The super interesting thing about the amygdala is that it is the sole gateway to the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is where we store memory. So this means there's only one hallway to get to our memory, and it is through our emotional state. And once you get to the memory, see, our conscience, our prefrontal cortex, pulls from our memory. If you drove to work this morning, you drove to work this morning because while you were thinking about the music you were listening to or talking on the phone or looking outside at the traffic, you weren't actually thinking about the route on your way to work, because that was actually being pulled from the hippocampus into your prefrontal cortex, and it actually sort of autopiloted you to your office, because you've done that pattern so many times you didn't have to think about it. When a car braked in front of you, you automatically braked because you didn't have to think about it. Those neural pathways are already ingrained. So if you think about the fact that our emotional state, the emotional center of the brain, is the sole gateway to the memory, and memory is where our prefrontal cortex, our conscience, pulls from, and our conscience is our future. So if our current emotional state determines what memories we recall, and the memories we recall determine our conscience, and our conscience is our future, then this means your current emotional state determines your future. And to take it one step further, this means if we never learn to master our emotional state, we will never control our future. So many people that we know, that you know, are in this state where negative things, bad things keep happening to them. And it's always something happening to them. It's always somebody else's fault. I got screwed. I got backstabbed. I got into a bad business partnership. I got into a bad relationship. My kids don't understand me. I have a bad spouse. I have a bad boss. We don't think about the fact that maybe we are stuck in a loop where we can't get out of an emotional state. So that emotion is recalling memories linked to that emotion and projecting that into our conscience and making our future part of our past. And so Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot too. So one of the major ways that we can actually shift our emotional state, we can actually go into the amygdala and raise our emotional state so that we recall elevated emotional memories, so that we think about elevated emotional thoughts, and we actually start to think about the future, project a positive image of our future, is that we can shift our state. And so going back to this catecholamine breathwork technique that I was about to share with you, this is also a way for us to just quickly shift our state. And so it works like this. If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling like a little stressed, if you're feeling like the kids are driving you up a wall, your spouse is driving you up a wall, your boss is driving you up a wall, and you just want to get back to baseline, do this breathing technique. It is 2 short, intense breaths through your nose, a short one and a long one, followed by breathing out behind pursed lips. So it looks like this: 2 short, intense nasal breaths in, and then pursed lips out. It's really important that those nasal breaths be violent, that they be really, really intense. The first one is short, and the next one is intense and long, and then it's followed by an exhale through pursed lips. They were actually able to measure, I think it was urinary catecholamines, for people that were experiencing anxiety. And after this nasal breathing techniques, urinary catecholamines dropped. I believe that was the measurement that they were using. So it looks again like this. You feel that sense of just agitation. I'm kind of overwhelmed. I'm stressed. I'm feeling some anxiety. I want to just change my state, or I want to change my state before I go into a difficult meeting. I want to change my state before I have a difficult conversation with my spouse. I want to change my state before I'm going to sit down and have a chat with my kids. This is what you want to do. 2 short nasal breaths in, followed by pursed lips out. I'm going to do 3 of them right now. Ready? Wow, I actually feel that, and I wasn't even upset. So learning to change our state, learning to control our emotional state so we actually take control of our future, these are some of the most amazing tricks that we can use to just shift our baseline and start to actually take control of our emotional state. If you do not control your emotional state, you will never control your future. So many of us wake up in the past. We wake up with thoughts of the past. We wake up with feelings of the past. We drag fear and anxiety forward into our day. The first thought we have when we open our mind are the problems that we had yesterday. And if we wake up thinking about the problems we had yesterday, they're going to become today's problem. The brain is really an interesting organism. It's actually very, very primal. We'd love to think that the brain is very, very sophisticated. It's not. It cares about survival. And if there are things that we need to worry about from yesterday because a tiger came into the entrance of our cave, then as a survival mechanism, I wake up in fear that a tiger might come in the entrance of a cave. But in modern day society, when we actually take our problems from yesterday and we wake up with them the next morning and we carry those into our day without shifting our state, we've already started our day in a negative emotional state. Just think about it. The last time you had an intense discussion with your spouse or your significant other, you can remember with incredible accuracy every single time they made you feel that way. You're like, you know what? You did this on Memorial Day. You did this at your mother-in-law's house on September 21st. You did this when we were on the boat the other day with my boys. You acted just like this. And why is it that you can be so accurate about recalling their behavior? Because their behavior, which is a memory, is tied to the emotion in the amygdala. And as soon as you reach that emotional state, you can go right back and grab that memory. And now it's that memory that's coming forward into your conscience. If you have an intense argument on your way to work and you get out of the car and you slam the door and you walk into your office, when you break the pane of the door of your office, the only memories that you can recall about the office at that moment are negative memories. The office hasn't done anything to you. Your spouse or your friend or something in the car did something to you and you walked into the office in that emotional state, and now your orientation of what's going to happen that day in the office is a negative orientation. Sally better not be back at the water cooler because she doesn't respect me, and they're going to chatter behind my back, and my boss doesn't respect me. And then all of a sudden you start your day off like that, and you actually begin to have a bad day, not because of anything the office did to you, but because of how you entered that situation. So this catecholamine breathing is just a way for you to break your emotional state, shift your state into a state of calm, shift from what we call sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, into a parasympathetic state, which is rest and digest. And I promise you, these little tricks that you can use anytime, just if you have to, go into the bathroom at your office and do some catecholamine breathing, 2 or 3 rounds of that, pull yourself together, and then go back into your day. If you have tension with someone in your life, step away for a minute, do some catecholamine breathing, and get back into that situation. Approach it from a different emotional state. It is incredible what this will do for you and how it will downregulate catecholamines. Anxiety is reported by 64% of Americans either report having suffered from or currently either suffering from anxiety, feelings of anxiety, or having had suffered from feelings of anxiety. 64%. So we just got to learn to get a hold of our emotional state. I promise you guys, breathwork for me has been the one consistency in my life. If you're not exercising, if you haven't changed your diet, if you're not properly hydrating, if you're traveling too much, if you're a road warrior, if you're deconditioned and just don't have the wherewithal or the motivation to exercise, start with breath work because it's portable, it's free, you can do it every day, anywhere you are, and slowly those emotional states will start to come back. You'll start to get that positive aggression towards challenging your body again. You start to feel like you're in control of your day. You will keep that little promise that you made to yourself, that's the one thing that I'm going to give my body. That's the one thing that I'm going to be selfish about. I'm going to put myself first, and I'm going to give myself this gift every single day. And if you keep that promise to yourself, it starts to pay more and more and more dividends. Because if you wake up in the morning and you promise yourself you're going to do breath work, and then you do breath work, and then you wake up the next day and you promise yourself you're going to do breath work, and you do breath work, these little promises start to stack up, and we actually start to restore our confidence in ourselves. We rarely ever talk, I talk about it a lot, but we rarely ever talk about the little promises that we break to ourselves. And I'm talking about the promises that you don't share with the outside world. Everybody has this inner conversation going on, right? And it's how we evaluate the trust that we have in ourselves. And you may not be sharing this with your spouse or your significant other or your kids or your friends or your coworkers. These are promises that you just make in your mind to yourself. They are the most important promises that you make. And when we consistently break them, I tell myself I'm going to go to bed at 10:30 and I go to bed at midnight. I tell myself I'm going to go to bed at 10:30, I go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning. You begin to delete and destroy the trust that you have in yourself. So you can rebuild it by consistency. You know, our bodies, human beings, crave consistency. It used to be that we were tied to the circadian cycle of the sun. We woke up with the sun and we went to bed with the sun. And we woke up with the sun and we went to bed with the sun. We actually had something else that was determining our cycle, our biorhythm, our circadian cycle. And now, because we control our lighting, we control our temperature, we control everything, we control every ounce of our inside environment. We have bright fluorescent lights at night that we're not supposed to have. We have dark darkened rooms in the morning, which we're not supposed to have. We're supposed to sleep in the pitch black, but wake up to the sun. We don't have a circadian cycle anymore. It's sort of all over the place. We're bombarding ourselves with blue light late at night, which is a waking light frequency that actually stimulates cortisol. So we're actually telling our bodies we want to go to bed, but the light is telling our brain to wake up. Do you know that cortisol, the waking hormone that rises in the morning, is responsive to light? So when your eyes are closed and light passes through your eyes, it begins to raise your cortisol level. Well, cortisol is not only a stress hormone when it raises too high, but it's also a waking hormone. It's the opposite of melatonin. Melatonin rises at night and cortisol falls. Cortisol rises in the morning and melatonin falls. But if we're actually bombarding our eyes and our brain with blue light from the screen of a phone or an iPad or a computer late at night, which so many of us do when we're sitting in bed, we're actually telling our brain to wake up while our body is asking us to go to sleep. And so I hope that you guys really, take this gift of breath work. I hope you really give it like the importance that it really deserves in your life. I hope that for the next 7 days, which is what I'll ask you to commit to, because I know that if you do the 3 rounds of 10 to 30 breaths for the next 7 days, it will become your favorite habit. Your mind, your body will, you'll open your eyes in the morning, and just like you crave going to the bathroom and relieving yourself, or going to the coffee maker and trying to get a stimulant, you're going to start to crave breath work. It's going to become your new drug of choice. And I always use that term because nothing will make you feel better for longer than that and a cold shower. And these are those little promises we keep to ourselves. They're the little gift that we give to our body. It creates consistency. When you travel, your body will know that within 30 minutes of waking, we do breath work, and that's what it means to be the morning. My body knows that within 30 minutes of waking, I know it's the morning because I'm doing breath work. And that level of consistency in your life will reset your circadian rhythm. It will actually shift your emotional state. So if you're one of those people that has a hard time waking up, not thinking about the past, breath work will break that cycle, right? It will shift you into an elevated emotional state. And a lot of us, even though we wake up in the morning and we journal, or we wake up in the morning and we try to wake up in gratitude, we actually can't shift to those emotional states. Why? Because those emotional states require oxygen. If you actually looked at the molecular structure, I talked about this on the first day, you look at the molecular structure of passion, elation, joy, arousal, libido, happiness, all of those hell yeah, I won the lottery emotions. If you look at their structure, they require oxygen. You cannot attain those emotional states without the right level of oxygen in the body, in the blood, and in the brain. The other thing that it does is activate something called the lymphatic system. Everybody knows about the lymphatic system, the static system in our body that actually moves waste and helps it eliminate from the body. But many of us haven't heard of the glymphatic system. You're welcome to Google around about this. The glymphatic system is the lymph system in the brain. It drains the brain of waste. It eliminates waste. It helps repair. It helps detoxify. It helps regenerate the brain. You can circulate lymphatic system by doing that stretch that I just taught you in the morning and doing 3 rounds of breath work. So lock into it. Guys, thank you first of all for the trust and confidence that you've shown in me joining this breathwork. Those of you that actually paid the $47 to become VIPs, I want to pour value into you. Everyone else, I want to make sure that every month there is something that will cost you nothing that will change the trajectory of your life. And over the next 12 months, I want to build a bigger and bigger and bigger community. Slowly, every month, adding little things to our life that are going to turn you into a superhuman. And I promise my objective is to try not to add $1 to your budget and to try to be respectful of your time, but to put things into your life that we can do to change the entire trajectory of your life. So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for your trust and your confidence. I appreciate you. Please share this breathwork guide. I did it for free for a reason. Send it to the people that you love. Tell them what kind of impact the last 3 days has had on you. Just learning to do breathwork. Continue to message me about things that you would like to see me talk about on my podcast, guests you'd like to have, questions you'd like to see answered, things that are important to you that I can go out and research for you and bring right to your front door. My message and my mission is to change the face of humanity. Not to sit here and impress upon you how smart I am. I am not a woke biohacker that wants to talk to other woke biohackers. I am a woke biohacker that wants to talk to humanity. And I need an army of people like you to help me get that message out. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, guys. VIPs, we're going to just stay on the Zoom, and I'm going to answer all of your questions. The rest of you guys have a blessed day. Shift your state. Do your breath work. God bless you. Get some sunlight. Touch the surface of the earth. Hydrate. Take some metal and chemical-free cleanse. Put Baja Gold or Celtic sea salt into your body. Put perfect aminos into your body and fuel your body the way that it was needed. Love you guys.